somewhere down the line in your 3D career, I'm sure you're going to have a client approach you and ask you to turn an Illustrator file of a logo, say, and turn that into a nice 3D version of that logo. Well, luckily enough for you, Cinema 4D has really awesome integration with Adobe applications, including Illustrator. So what I'm going to do is show you how you can prep your Illustrator artwork to have Cinema 4D actually import that Illustrator file and turn this Illustrator path into Cinema 4D splines that you can then extrude and 3Dify. So here I have a cassette tape that I made in Illustrator, and one of the very important things of prepping Illustrator artwork for import into Cinema 4D is that you have every element that you want on separate layers. If you have these in all one layer, everything's going to come merged together, and that's going to cause you a big headache. So make sure all of your different aspects of your artwork are on separate layers, grouped nice and labeled nicely as well. So you can see all of my different elements here. Basically just rebuilt what I built in Cinema 4D using Splines, and now we can then export this out. There's one important thing to go over, and it's the difference between the space inside of Cinema 4D versus Illustrator. Now, what I'm talking about is the positional spacing and where 0, 0 is as far as X and Y in Illustrator versus Cinema 4D. So in Cinema 4D, 0, 0, 0, 0x, 0y, 0z is dead center in Cinema, but not in Adobe products, okay? So if I select all of my objects here, and I go to the transform, you can actually see right up here, X and Y, even though this is kind of centered in my artboard, it's actually not anywhere near 0, 0 that we would expect it to be. And that's because in Adobe products, 0, 0, 0x, 0y is actually in the top left here, okay? So to zero this out and not have to import this and basically zero out things inside of Cinema 4D, I'm just going to move my artwork all the way to the top corner, right about there. And now you'll see my transform is actually at 0x, 0y. So now I can go and save this. And one very important step is to go save as. And what I'm going to do is save this wherever you want to. I actually have a file already existing. I'm going to say replace. And there's one hugely important step for you to make right here. And it is the version that you need to save out at, so Cinema 4D can actually recognize all those paths. And that version happens to be version 8. So Illustrator 8, there's no rhyme or reason why it's Illustrator 8, it's just that's the last version that had that compatibility with Cinema 4D. So Illustrator 8, very important. I'm going to hit OK, and it's going to prompt you with this error that says, saving this document in older format may do da-da-da-da. Don't worry about it, it's totally fine. So I'm going to hit OK. And now I can jump into Cinema 4D. Okay, so here I am in Cinema 4D. Let's go ahead and import this Illustrator file. So you can either open or merge, and merge is just going to merge the Illustrator file into your existing project. So I have a project already open, so I'm just going to go merge. And there is my Illustrator file that I just saved out. I'm going to open that, and we're going to be prompted with this Adobe Illustrator import box. And we have a few options here. Typically, you won't have to change anything with the scale or the centimeters. One of the important things is the connect splines and the group splines. And let me actually just import this 3 different ways so you can see the difference between each import method of having connect splines or group splines on or off. So for this example, I'll just have connect splines turned on, and I'll hit OK. And you're going to see we have this cassette null, and if I twirl that down, I'm going to have 2 splines. And the unfortunate part of the import process is you lose all of those named layers in Illustrator. So unfortunately, they come in as path 1 and path 10. And you're going to notice that all of these paths are merged together. They are connected together, okay? And the one nice thing is that this kind of imported at the dead center of our project file because we moved that our artwork in Illustrator up to that top left corner. So it's kind of nice and centered. We still need to actually zero this out a little bit to be dead center. So there you go. You can see that now this is the axis center, at least, is perfectly centered at 0, 0, 0 in the X, Y, and Z. So this is the connect version. All right, so let's go ahead and go merge and choose our cassette again. And this time we'll uncheck connect splines, okay, because that didn't give us a lot of flexibility. All of our splines were one shape, and that's going to be hard to extrude, okay? So let's go to, we'll leave group splines checked on, and we'll see what this one looks like. And let's, again, zero out the X and the Y there. And now you can see, really the only difference is how it comes in and how it actually separates all of these paths and actually groups them and makes them children of one another. So let me actually just delete. You can see visually the structure. You see there's a lot more path or splines that have come in because we haven't connected them. So we can just go ahead and click one of these and see, all right, path 14, that's the like inner teeth of our little spool. The problem is in Illustrator, these two objects were one, but they're brought in as separate objects, which is kind of frustrating. But to fix it, there's a really easy thing to do to connect both those splines together. And that is to select the splines you want to connect, so these little spools, and I'll right-click and go Connect Objects. And what will happen is that we'll then create a new spline that now has both of those splines connected, so I have that singular spool wheel shape, okay? So I'm going to undo that. And there's actually another option as well. If you don't want to keep those original splines here, the separate splines, we can just go to Connect Objects and Delete. So it won't save a backup copy of the original two splines. It'll make the one connected spline and delete the other two splines. So I'll do Connect Objects and Delete. Notice we have these two paths there right now. Connect Objects and Delete. And you'll see that merged both of those splines together into one, and this is our spool. So another thing is, again, you're going to have to rename all of these layers to make sense of this. Another thing here is I had these two holes cut out of this other, the bottom bit, whatever this thing's called. So again, I can just combine these together to form one cohesive spline. So again, right-click and Connect Objects and Delete, and this is one cohesive piece. Okay, so a little bit of manual labor to kind of connect things as they import over from Illustrator. Now let's just go ahead and import one more time. So I'll go to Merge and get our cassette, and this time I'll uncheck Group Splines. Okay. And you'll see the difference. The difference is all in the how it's imported. And what this does is, instead of having all of these splines as children and all kind of in this child hierarchy, we actually have individual nulls, actually have enclosed those paths underneath it. Okay, so it's a little bit of how you prefer to be organized. I think I actually like the both options unchecked, so not unchecking connect splines and unchecking grouped, because then you have these individual nulls, and you can see that, okay, I need to merge these two paths here, or these two splines here, so I'll just do Connect Objects and Delete, and it's way easier to kind of see which objects you need to connect. So I need to connect these two, and then this needs to connect to, let's see what we have here. I need to just disconnect these, so these are one object here. Connect Objects and Delete, and you can see there's a little label with the label hole cut through. And there's all of our screw holes, and then here's our main cassette casing, and then those little holes there, and I can just Connect Objects and Delete, and there you go. So that's how you can easily merge objects together. We don't even need to do any spline masks with things like this. But again, we do have to rename everything. So that's not too difficult, right? So the ability to import Illustrator paths into Cinema 4D and have them convert to splines is a huge thing and a time saver. Even though you have to rename all those stuff, at least you don't need to rebuild the splines from scratch. So the integration between Cinema 4D and Adobe is one of the major strengths of Cinema 4D. So be sure you're aware of them and you utilize it to its maximum extent.